What's up, everyone? This is Go Long with Dunn and Monis. One of us is in Buffalo, New York. I think you're in Buffalo, New York, right? I can't tell from
I
your
think.
background. I don't know where the hell
You
you
know
are
what,
half the time.
Tyler? I can't keep track either, but let's go with Buffalo. We'll go with Buffalo tonight.
Okay. Is that really where you are? I have no idea.
I am in Buffalo tonight, but I know where you're not because I can see the
Right.
background. Yeah.
I'm sitting outside at the beautiful Desmond Spirits and Oven in downtown Phoenix. Unbelievable pizza. Just had a wood-fired pizza. The Desmond hit the spot. Sometimes you get those personal pizzas, Jim, and it's like, how in the hell am I going to eat this whole thing? You're just staring at it. It's staring back at you, and you don't know how it's going to get done. And then 15 minutes later, it's completely eliminated. So it was incredible. Drinking a local IPA. We're outside. Actually, James Jones just walked by. Saw my buddy Phil Perry, NBC Sports Boston. He walked by. So I'm just going to tell our listeners, our viewers, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know who's going to walk by here at Super Bowl week, but we'll just, bring them on in real time. And, Connor Orr might be here. Sports Illustrated. I think he's on his way. I miss you, Jim. I wish you were here to celebrate, to drink some beer, talk some football. But we'll make do best we can.
I keep looking for Howie Roseman. That's who I'm looking for in the background. I keep thinking somehow, some way, we're going to see Howie Roseman.
Well, I texted you on media night, so we're at crazy media night, and it's just, it's a little insane. They've really tried to, in pure NFL fashion, just contrive entertainment in a place that does not need it. Like there's reporters there, TV, print, everything, but then there's also a layer of absolute batshit ridiculousness, and it's a TV event. There's cheerleaders, there's mascots. The whole Phoenix Suns arena is just full of fans. They're just watching this all with headsets. They can tune in to a few interviews. So, hey, I guess if you can do it, if you're the NFL, you might as well. But anyways, so the Eagles are introduced. The players are walking through this tunnel, and as it just happens, I walk right by Howie Roseman, your former grunt coworker with the Philadelphia Eagles.
We were grunts together.
And I just was like, he's like on a mission, right? He's moving fast. He's walking to his place right when they introduced the team. And I just said to him in passing as we're walking by, Jim Mona says hi. And his head turned right around, man. It turns right around. Whoa, that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Well, he's probably thinking, great. Jim's trying to get a hold of me again for a job. He's probably looking for a job again.
He's thinking, no, it's the one person who could be running the Philadelphia Eagles better than me. So keep his name out of your mouth.
Hey, Howie, we talked about it on the pod. You wrote a great story about it, but it's all out of respect. It's fun to relive those days, to think about how we all started, whatever job you're in, right? You look back on things and you're like, man, I can't believe we did that then that way. But out of respect, knowing how hard it is to sustain success and actually stay employed in general, that I got to give Howie credit. So.
Yeah, we might as well launch into that. We're judged. We have to judge these teams, these GMs, these coaches on the bottom line, on results. And I get it. If they would have just forked over a blank check to Allen Robinson or, insert potential disastrous mistake here, we're looking at this in a different light. But he didn't, right? He made the right decisions.
Then that goes to the what ifs of personnel in general, right? What if the Bills draft Patrick Mahomes? What if the Bills sign Antonio Brown and they never trade for Stephon Diggs?
Right.
The things that happen that you try to do sometimes as a GM and then they don't happen. Sometimes you were wrong. You were going to be wrong on something, but it didn't happen. So, hey, it goes in your favor, but it's the inexact science of scouting. And we've talked about it, how he's made mistakes just like everybody, but he's had chances to make up for those mistakes, and he has. The owner trusts him. But Tyler, what I was really thinking about tonight was Andy Reid. And the reason I think about Andy Reid a lot right now is I actually think if I'm crazy on this, I think another Super Bowl, I'm ready to say I think you can make an argument he's the greatest coach in the history of the NFL.
There is a take.
So
There is
that's
a
a hot
take from
look.
Jim Monas.
That's
Hot.
the hot.
I
That's
think
that
that was
hot
just in
take.
that was just in the pizza oven inside. I think I just took a bite into that take.
So that's that hot take that I can say because nobody cares, and I'm not going to get fired if I'm wrong. But there's really no right or wrong answer, so I'm going to say it. But let me just tell you why. Right, Belichick. Obviously, Belichick's the guy we always just say is the greatest head coach of all time. Even though his first stint as a head coach, we know in Cleveland didn't work out so well. Next stint, you get your shot with the Patriots. Now, Drew Brees gets the injury. I mean, Drew Bledsoe gets the injury. I mean, I don't know. That was a good team anyway, right? Regardless, that was a good football team. They were going to be in the mix. They were relative. Then Brady comes in. Now the rest is history. Point is, he loses Brady. And this guy, who's the greatest coach in the history of football, right? The history of football, Bill Belichick, has his son as the D coordinator and two guys who have never coached offense before or called a game before, the offensive coordinator. That's the greatest head coach in the history of football. That's the greatest coach. I'm supposed to tell you the greatest coach in the history of football without Tom Brady. The best he can do is draft a quarterback who wasn't first round worthy, hire two guys as his offensive coordinator, which I've never heard of before, and his son's the defensive coordinator. That's the best coach in the history of football. Or is it Andy Reid, who took a Philadelphia Eagle team to however many straight NFC championships, a Super Bowl, got them a franchise quarterback in McNabb, part of Tom Modrak, Mark Ross, Andy Reid, the whole rebuilding of Philly back in early 2000 with McNabb. They run, the window closes in Philly. They make one more run post McNabb a little bit with Michael Vick. They had some. They tried. The window closed. Andy Reid goes to Kansas City. Not a bad franchise, right? They weren't in the depths, but they weren't where they wanted to be. Where are they now? Getting ready to win another Super Bowl, going back to a Super Bowl. So what has Andy Reid done as a head coach with two different franchises in the NFL that didn't come ready? They weren't ready to win right away. I mean, he built those teams how he wants them built. Both look the same. He's evolved as a coach. He's evolved over the years. Look at his staff. He's has a loyal staff. He brought Matt Nagy back right when he got fired from Chicago, and we talked about it. Nagy will take over for Bieniemy soon. Eventually, he'll be the head coach in KC whenever Coach Reid is ready to step down. But I really think, Tyler, another Super Bowl. And look, I know the whatever greatest coach, whatever, it doesn't matter. He needs to be in the discussion.
I
All right, I'll let you go.
absolutely love this take. That was eloquently, perfectly encapsulated.
I'm
Because
gonna
I think
leave. I'm gonna leave now. You
right.
can have. I can't
Drop
say anymore.
just drop the drink and just walk right out of there. Right.
No,
Before,
I just go ahead though. Go ahead though. What do you think though? Like,
no, I mean I'm speechless because I'd go Belichick because I do
yeah,
think it's bottom line,
it's fair.
and all these Super Bowls that are replaying this week, it becomes such a time suck because you just end up watching all of them start to finish. I mean, really, I mean the Atlanta comeback was masterful in its own ways.
Mm-hmm. It
Tom
is.
Brady obviously orchestrating it, but Bill Belichick making a few chess moves in that. I mean, they held Sean McVay and the Los Angeles Rams to 3 points in the Super Bowl. They got 12 quarterback hits. Todd Gurley did nothing. It basically ended his career. Sean McVay was embarrassed. I do think that there are very distinct moments with everything on the line where Bill Belichick himself rose up. Let alone, I mean, for the first three Super Bowls with a young Tom Brady and a defensive-minded team, and they are winning divisions year after year after year, winning conferences. I get it. Like, and I love Tom Brady. I think he's the greatest player ever, and it's not necessarily close. But I have a hard time putting an Andy Reid who has come up short time and time and time and time again in that class. I respect the take, though. We need more of this. We need more outside the
To
box
be
thinking
honest, I like
because
your take. Yeah.
but you're absolutely right in how he has redefined himself and offenses and teams. I mean, the Mike Vick thing itself is fascinating. Where this is a player, I mean, in jail, he's out of football for years, and you just take him in and win games with him. I mean, that's unbelievable, really. Um, Kansas City, I mean, they pay Patrick Mahomes all this money, and yet they continue to draft unbelievably well. I mean, look at the playoff win over Cincinnati, where top to bottom, from Trent McDuffie down to Isaiah Pacheco, everybody is making plays. Everybody on that team, and that's Andy Reid, right? I mean, we both know he's got his hands all over this team. He's in charge, much like Sean McDermott in Buffalo. I mean, he's getting the guys he wants. So
And they
it's
have the
unbelievable what
GM,
he's
and
done.
they have their GM, and the GM that they have, Brandon Bean, Brett Veach. They're trustworthy, right? Hand-picked GM, just like we always talk about, structured correctly. So there's no
And before I
surprise.
forget,
And
too,
Tyler, oh yeah,
just with Howie, the one thing I was trying to think of was Russell Wilson, right? They went in on him. Like if they imagine if this was a team and a GM that got into the Russell Wilson business, that could have been ugly. So the line is unbelievably thin. But I mean that's why you're defined
it's
by
so
your
unbelievable.
choices. But you know what
It's
we can only judge these GMs and coaches on what happens, on the outcomes. And
yeah,
these are two GMs and two head coaches that have, by and large, hit on their draft picks,
no
hit on their
question.
free agent signings, and made bold decisions at quarterback. Right? I mean, we should really launch into that because Philadelphia did not need to draft Jalen Hurts. They were less than a year removed from handing Carson Wentz the most guaranteed money in NFL history, $108 million. And you draft a quarterback in the second round. That's absolutely going to affect the psyche of that player you just handed all of that money to. Man, that takes balls. I mean, there's coaches and GMs that don't even entertain the faint thought of that. I mean, they're not even having a conversation in January, February, March, and at no point is that even a conversation. And they draft Jalen Hurts. I mean, that does take outside the box thinking that you have. That's why I love talking football with you, Jim. Some GMs have it, some don't.
No, it's fun to study the guys that take. I like the guy. You asked me a question earlier this year about just the Bears with Justin Fields, with the first pick, and would they draft a quarterback? You know, would you if you had that pick and you had Justin Fields? And I said simply, yeah. If you valued that quarterback better than Fields, and you valued him as the right guy to lead your team to a Super Bowl, then you have to draft that quarterback. It's not necessarily a knock on Fields. You're always looking. I hate to say it, you're always looking to upgrade.
And then you know what? It's a hard business. And
It's a hard business.
I do see both sides. I think initially with that Hurts pick, I was absolutely empathizing with Wentz because I'm thinking of 2017 Wentz, who was the best player in football before he tore his ACL. And think, if you're going to operate through that prism and doing everything in your power to maximize that talent, you're not drafting a quarterback in the second round, right? But guess what? It's a tough business, and you can look at it as, all right, well, Wentz should have been able to process that, dealt with that, played well, taking the competition head on. That's what Aaron Rodgers did. I mean, I think we both think the decision to draft Jordan Love was smart. I mean, it's a premium position. You believe in the guy.
Yeah,
and Aaron Rodgers didn't like it, but guess what? It pissed him off. He won 2 MVPs. He does what he does, losing in the playoffs. But, if that's the collateral damage, if that's the worst case scenario, that's fine. That's fine. But now you got to move on. And don't get me going on that situation. I'll have a story Thursday morning on the 4-day darkness cleanse for old Aaron. But that pick was smart. The Hurts pick was smart. no position in football matters more than quarterback. It's not even close. And I mean, Andy Reid, I mean, he made a bold decision as well. I mean, you were a part of that
You're a part
all.
of it. I knew it the whole time. We knew it was a quarterback the whole time. We just didn't know if it was. We didn't know if it was going to be Watson or Mahomes. That's all.
You know, you hear things Super Bowl week. You know, I'm at Eagles availability, Chiefs availability, so they're at their own hotels and basically. Sorry, there's a motorcycle there. You're gonna have some ambient noise on this podcast. Um, but then I'm hanging out on Radio Row, trying to shake hands, kiss babies, make acquaintances. One thing I heard this week, Jim, and I want to know if you heard this too, because you were a Southeast scout for the New Orleans Saints. You were involved with the trade, obviously, out of that pick to Andy Reid, to the Chiefs. He's moving ahead of the New Orleans Saints to take Patrick Mahomes. I heard there's a lot of meat on the bone when it comes to Sean Payton loving Patrick Mahomes. That he was infatuated. I know a lot of it's already out there, but it was like he is openly telling people, this is my guy. We are going to move this franchise from Drew Brees to Patrick Mahomes. Like he was all in. And somehow word got to Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs, and they were wise enough to jump up and beat Peyton to the punch. At some point, these stories kind of take on, a little bit too much color. It becomes a little too cartoonish, and you're not sure what to believe. But what did you hear down those lines?
Yeah, no, I like this. I can tell you this. I don't know if that's why the Chiefs traded up. I don't know if it's because they knew New Orleans liked him. I don't think that was the reason. We had that deal in place for a while. They contacted us pretty early on in the process that they were interested. Basically, they started the talks with us. Like, hey, if we want to come up, what will basically you work the deal out. So basically on draft day, when if the guy's on the clock that they want, we already know we're all good on it, make the move. So I don't know about the Saints. I don't know how they would have known anything about what the Saints were going to do, really. What we did know about the Saints was, if I'm trying to remember correctly, but I'm almost positive, they couldn't trade up. The Saints, I don't think, had any ammo to go up. And so there's certain teams are going to, like, everybody knew we were going to take a quarterback if we stayed at that pick, because it was going to be Trubisky, Mahomes, Watson. We were doing the work on them. So the league would assume, like, if I was working for another team and had to, you keep track of the Bills, you're thinking Bills are going to take quarterback.
Which is fascinating, though, because organizationally, you guys made the decision we're not going to draft a rookie quarterback because Sean didn't want to start a rookie.
That was only in our building.
I know. That's what I'm saying. In your building.
We knew we weren't taking one. Yeah. I'm saying if I was another team, they would think the Bills are definitely taking a quarterback. Just because, whatever, it was the year. And then the teams ahead of the Bills, the teams right after the Bills, and you know who's probably going to take a QB. And you look back on it, it's just fascinating to see how it falls. But when they took Trubisky, that's when we were like, okay, what if that's who the Chiefs wanted? Like, what if that's who the Chiefs wanted? So we were, until then, our pick game, as it got right, a little bit closer to our pick, John Dorsey was the GM at the time, called Whaley, and hey, our guy's still on the clock. If our guy's on there, we're going to do it. And as soon as I forget who was picked right before us, but as soon as we went on the clock, they called and we're like, all right, it's Mahomes or Watson.
God, I'm fascinated by this draft, Jim. My buddy Dan Wiederer at the Chicago Tribune, I mean, he did a very extensive story on how the Bears got their minds in a position to take Mitch Trubisky and Ryan Pace's infatuation. I mean, they went to just unbelievable lengths to just prevent anybody else from knowing that they liked Mitchell Trubisky. And it just, it just goes to show. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, here we are sitting Super Bowl week. Patrick Mahomes is playing in his third Super Bowl. He's the best player on the planet. It's not even close. He's
Not even
doing things that we haven't seen ever.
should have been the first pick of the draft.
I mean, and Mitch Trubisky is
He's fighting for a job.
played a little bit there in Pittsburgh, and we don't know what's going to happen next.
No, he's in the backup. He's fighting to make teams now. He's fighting to prove he's a really good number two.
And it goes to show how much of a crapshoot the draft is. That an entire franchise put so many resources into making that decision at the top of a draft and was that unbelievably wrong. And it happens again and again and again.
I mean, look at Deshaun Watson. Even I mean, what are we going to say about him at the end of the day? When I mean, we're acting like that was a great pick. I don't even know if that was a great pick. That franchise is completely destroyed. I'm not saying it's Watson's fault, but I mean, he didn't look anywhere near like a playmaker for Cleveland this year. I mean, that stuff that the way he looked, and I don't want to be too hard on him, obviously, because he wasn't playing a lot. He was coming off everything. But I'll be hard on the fact that he looked like garbage. Like, let's just say it. He played bad for Cleveland.
And you're not even talking about massages. You're just talking about production.
So anyway, I guess what I'm saying, one quarterback of that's the guy. Mahomes was the guy. Clearly was just the guy. And now I think we're about to witness, though. This is where I think the Chiefs. You want to talk about the game a little bit?
I guess, right? It is a big game. We might as well touch on it.
I wanted to just touch on it from this angle, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of more. Here's my take on this game. I think they're the two best teams all year long. I can't find a real angle analytically. Like, these teams are really stacked up. This should be a good one. Where I'm leaning, though, this is why I'm going to say this. I'm going KC. I'm sorry. You have to earn. The Eagles haven't earned shit in these playoffs. And I'm so what the Chiefs have done all year. They have fought through, the typical ups and downs that you go through in a season. But then they get through into the playoffs. And what they've done in the playoffs has been incredible, especially battling through that Mahomes injury. And if you've watched him all year, he has never wavered. He has never stayed unfocused. For losing Tyreek Hill never, ever fazed Patrick Mahomes. All he did was put up bigger numbers. I mean, it's unbelievable to think what Mahomes went through this year. I don't feel like anything can stop him. Then I'm looking at Philadelphia. I haven't even really seen Hurts even make a real play yet in the playoffs. Like, they go against that. They destroy the Giants. That wasn't a game. And then they're playing a championship game. The guy's shot putting a football to complete a 2-yard pass. So what I'm saying is, I'm going off the belief Andy Reid, who I think is the greatest coach in the history of football, Patrick Mahomes, who I think is the greatest quarterback in the history of football, against unproven Hurts, unproven Sirianni. KC, you got my bet.
Love it. Jim Modis is really bringing it to this episode.
It's Super Bowl week, man.
It's Super Bowl week. It's Super Bowl week. That's right. And then we got to talk XFL when that comes around the corner.
We'll do. Yeah, once it starts, we'll get.
Jim, I mean, I've been talking to players on both sides all week. I wish I had like a really strong opinion on the game right now. I should here on a Wednesday night, but I like the fact that Philadelphia is built from the inside out. Like, it was just chatting with their offensive linemen today, and they're coached by the absolute best offensive line coach in the business. Jeff Stoutman's unbelievable. The passion that he coaches with, he's been around forever, but beyond that, the scheme, and they're very guarded with what they do, X's and O's wise. Like, they don't really want to even dip their toe into trying to explain why it works, but it is next level. The angles they hit you at the first level, at the second level, guards, tackles, center, everybody is liable to hit you at any point. But you're right. They haven't really been tested. They played a Giants team that kind of laid over from the jump. They played a San Francisco team that could not throw the ball. Throwing the ball was not an option in the NFC Championship game for that team. So I think you're right. I mean, I think the Kansas City going through what they did, and especially in that AFC Championship game, especially when you really get down to the nitty gritty and look at the star players. I mean, Patrick Mahomes just shatters his ankle, a high ankle sprain, an injury that keeps players out for weeks. I get it. We can hyperanalyze it and wonder, okay, but now he's going against his pass rush. How is he going to move? He's Patrick Mahomes. We'll figure that shit out. He's the best in the world. And he did figure it out against Cincinnati. Like, he was fine. He made the plays he had to make. Chris Jones, he's getting double teamed by one count, 30 of the 45 pass rush opportunities. Getting double teamed that much. He had triple teamed a couple times. He still had eight pressures. 3 of them resulted in sacks, 2 by himself. 5 resulted in quarterback hits and incompletions. Chatting with Joe Cullen, the D-line coach this week. It was great. I didn't even side note, Google Joe Cullen. I totally forgot about the Wendy's incident where he went through a drive-through naked when he was with the Detroit Lions. Do you remember that, Jim?
I remember it. I forget where we were when we read that. I feel like we were in draft meetings. I feel like I was with the Saints and we were in a draft, we were like, ooh, that's a bad. Well, when you read something on, you're like, ooh, feel for it.
To his credit, I didn't talk to him about that because, like I said, I totally forgot when we're chatting about Chris Jones. But Jim McBride at the Boston Globe, he's from Boston. Joe Cullen is, so he did a story. It was great. Cullen is unbelievably open and honest about it. He's like, yeah, I was really drunk. I blacked out, didn't know what I was doing, and I was naked and wanted some food, so I went through the drive-through. And so we could laugh about it now, but it was no laughing matter then. He got his life together. I mean, he realized, look, the best way to not put yourself in that position, 21 beers deep, is to not have beer number 1. I mean, we all know our own tolerance. So
here's the part of the story. The naked part I struggle with, because I don't know about you, but I've at least tried to go through the Wendy's drive-through probably 6 to 8 times in my life, walk through it.
6, that's a lot of times.
Yes. And I got shot down every time because
you
have to be in a car. When you go through the drive-through, you have to be in a car. But when you have too much to drink, sometimes you just walk right up to the drive-through and you're begging. But the one part I don't get is I never thought about ever taking my clothes off to do it. That's the only part I'm not getting. But
yeah, I mean, there definitely are. I mean, we can laugh about it because nobody was seriously injured on his transportation to the Wendy's and back, right?
So mine was walking.
What's
I was
bad
walking
about it?
through it.
Yeah,
right.
Anyways, I'm sorry to even bring that up because it was a great conversation. He was incredibly insightful. We talked about Chris Jones's impact on the Chiefs defense. And
what does he say about Chris Jones?
It's so weird to just talk about serious football after we detoured that direction. He called him a modern day Reggie White, and I
would agree.
These position coaches, they're not hyperbolic. The long-time position coaches, he's been around a long time. He isn't going to just throw that out there willy-nilly to pump up his guys. 6'5", maybe 6'6", 310. He plays inside. He plays outside. He's this indomitable, inevitable presence that can beat you with strength and athleticism. Where, I mean, Aaron Donald is a freak. Warren Sapp is a freak. They didn't look anything remotely close to Chris Jones. So that's where I start to agree with you. It's like, okay, yeah, Philly's line is really, really good. But who have they faced? And Chris Jones, he figured it out against Cincinnati. He just figured it out. They were doubling him. They were throwing everything they could at him. And then there's going to be that one time where you have to go single. You can't double him every single play. He will be one-on-one a handful of snaps, and he's going to kill you. You can't just avoid him through the course of a 60-snap game completely. Like, somebody who's that talented is going to make the play in the moment, not unlike Aaron Donald trashing Quentin Spain on 4th and 1 when Joe Burrow has Jamar Chase wide open up the right sideline because Jalen Ramsey fell down. Couldn't get it to him because Aaron Donald's in his grill. I just love that about football. I mean, and then I think it was maybe Andre Dillard that was hitting on this today with a little bit. As much as the game has become so pass happy and pass heavy, and we're so obsessed with the quarterbacks. I mean, I'm sitting here in downtown Phoenix, and there's just signage of Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes everywhere. It's the Super Bowls. There's still one in the trenches, really. I mean, even the Philly New England most yards ever in an NFL game ever. That game was won when Brandon Graham got to Brady, sacked him, forced the fumble, and then he just ended it. So I think that Chris Jones is going to be the player capable of having that moment more than anybody on Philly. I mean, they've got a great D line, but they don't have a Chris Jones.
Regardless of Jones, what his stats will be in this Super Bowl, they will be paying attention to him, and he has to be accounted for. And that's the impact. That's his impact right there. That he will have to. They will account for him on every play, and we'll find out how good these linemen are when they get singled up with it. Because that's when you find out about yourself. Yeah, it's nice when you can have some help inside. But I tell you, Tyler, you're right though. But these two teams, like there is nothing. I'm sitting there and I gave you my spiel on why I like KC, but Eagles win this game. I can see that, no question. Like the team, they've had a hell of a year. They're so rock solid in every phase you want to be, and they're just like it. They match up so evenly. It's to the point where, like I said, I'm going. Here we go. A couple years ago, I took Mahomes. That was that big. We were laughing our first year doing the podcast when the year Mahomes was. They couldn't protect Mahomes. Remember that against Brady against Tampa, and they couldn't protect Mahomes. There was no, it wasn't going to work.
497 yards before he threw the ball and before he was sacked. That's how often he was running nuts around in his own maze.
But that was, I felt good about KC, and I still look back on that game, and hey, it was whatever. They won one. I'm just not going against them. As long as they're in the Super Bowl, if it's Mahomes in the Super Bowl, I'm probably betting them. Especially if it's even money and an underdog. He's plus money right now. I mean, it's basically a pick 'em. It's plus 1.5. But to me, I'll take Mahomes all day.
You say it's even, but I was surprised to see that. I mean, for all the reasons you just laid out, that the Eagles technically are the favorite in this game.
And the way I handicap, I had them as a 1-point favorite, just like they had them right on it with them, because they are that good on defense. It doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, you can't overanalyze who they play. They both have the same body of work to do your best to analyze the game. And the Eagles defense has been rock solid. Both teams are so good on third downs. Like it's crazy how even they are. I broke down. It's like they're ready. This is good. Should be a really good Super Bowl. I just can't get over in my head the lack of like just big time tough plays that Hurts has not been asked to make in the playoffs.
Are you concerned with his passing ability, with the shoulder, with whatever he's going through right now?
I can't say I've noticed him looking different than he did earlier in the year, but he doesn't look exactly the same running as far as his he doesn't look as aggressive wanting to run. I thought he was maybe earlier in the year. So I'm not sure if that is injury related or not, but man, he is one thing we don't have to worry about is his toughness.
Can I ask you this? I'm kind of jumping the gun on a story. I haven't written it yet. It's going to be out at Go Along later this week. But I want your perspective on this. We haven't even talked off air about it at all. But sitting down with Jeff Stoutland, these Philadelphia offensive linemen, Landon Dickerson as well. I feel like the way they're coached on the line and the emphasis they put into their offensive line, maybe this is it's a little strong to call it NFL Moneyball, but as GMs lament the fact that they don't have money to spend on players and draft capital. And as Brandon Bean said, I don't want to suck to get Jamar Chase. This is a way to get better as a team. Find yourself a genius, unbelievable offensive line coach. We've talked about them, right? A lot of them are nuts, a little too nuts. And you know, you don't even necessarily need to go spend money on a high price free agent or a top 5 pick, but just do everything you can to find a really, really talented offensive line coach, because that coach is going to get the absolute most out of your left tackle to your right tackle. And then that whole line is going to affect everything. It's going to affect the ground game. I mean, Philadelphia ran for, God, I think it was 363 yards against the Packers in that win this year. I mean, when they get rolling downhill, it's an unstoppable rushing attack. They protect Jalen Hurts. They're just a well-oiled machine at this point. So it starts with Stoutland. I mean, he's been there back to Chip Kelly. He's been there forever. He just extended, I believe, when he could, you know, apply for offensive coordinator positions if he really wanted to. But it's like it is kind of like a way to get better as an organization without needing to think, oh, we need a top 5 pick, or oh, we need to shell out 50, 60, 70 million dollars for a free agent. No, like you can hire a damn good offensive line coach for whatever it costs. I don't know what these guys make, $1 million a year. You tell me. And we're going to get substantially better as a football team. Who, I don't even know. Maybe you know better than me who those 4 or 5 offensive line coaches are. Maybe those are the dudes a team should do everything in their power to get, because that's that's a person who's going to get a hell of a lot more out of, say, you know, Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown and Mitch Morse and Roger Saffold. And all. I mean, I thought Cromer was one of those guys. Honestly, we talked to Richie Incognito, right? He was high on Cromer, but they kind of were just okay this year too. So I don't know. It's inexact, but is this a way that teams can maybe, you know, get from very good to Super Bowl caliber in today's NFL?
Hiring an offensive line coach.
It doesn't move the meter for you after my long soliloquy.
Here's why I'm smiling. Here's why I'm smiling. Because I agree with pretty much everything you said.
I mean, if we look at Frank Pollock in Cincinnati, all right? Cincinnati's offensive line, terrible. Cincinnati's offensive line this year, I know Chris Jones just wrecked that game a hell of a lot better, because he's a really good offensive line coach. And yeah, they added new personnel there, but I mean, you can get better on the offensive line without needing to break the bank and without needing to burn through premium draft capital if you've got the right coach and an emphasis overall.
We talked about it a little bit on the last, as far as no question, the importance of the offensive line coach. It's major. It's a major hire for every head coach. And then being able to keep that offensive line coach with you the entire time. You see coaches when they get other jobs, those guys usually take their offensive line coach with them, because it's about, they have a way to build that room, not just the first tackle, or they starting unit, the backups. They know who they want as back that role. Good swing backups to build your roster. Who can play guard, center? Who has that ability to swing? Could they bump out? Could they back up? That guy has huge value. But a lot of great offensive line coaches can tell more than scouts sometimes the versatility of a lineman in college. They might see it more than a scout, where, hey, he's doing those types of things. He could do that inside too. He could do that outside. They might see that more than we would. So their value of an offensive line coach goes on. You know, I think most people would agree the value is huge. The hard part for me is always, if Jalen Hurts struggles throwing, KC, if he's missing some open, like, this offensive line, it's not going to matter.
That's right.
Whereas
I mean,
if the offensive line could struggle, like Patrick Mahomes couldn't move last week, but yet he's so talented, he still found ways to make throws on one leg and scramble on one leg. It's where, you know, you put on if Chad Henne plays that game completely healthy against Mahomes, who was hobbling, Chiefs don't win. That's just how much I value. That's just I guess that's where I'm just trying to say.
Right. Well,
I
I'm not
agree with
saying that the
everything you're
choice
saying.
is between having a good offensive line coach and having
Yeah,
Patrick
I
Mahomes.
guess that's what I'm saying. I just don't see that value of taking you over the top to get to the Super Bowl. Building a team.
You know what, Jim? Our internet is getting a little unstable here.
That would be the way I would say it.
Alrighty, Jim. Our internet's getting a little shaky here down the stretch. So, we're not gonna go quarterback kneel down quite yet, but maybe we're in 4-minute offense. What do you think?
I'm good. I mean, I've given I got to just right now. I feel like I have the lead. I've done everything I can do on my takes. I feel I got everything out there. Now I just got to hold on for the victory.
Yeah, you brought it. I wish I had a strong take on this game right now. I do think that there's going to be a player in this game. Maybe this is a good way to kind of close up the episode, Jim. There's going to be a player in this game that we're not talking about, we're not thinking about,
I like it.
that makes the play in the fourth quarter, everything on the line. Right, there's somebody every single Super Bowl that makes that play. And that's kind of what I'm also trying to figure out right now is who is that player going to be? Is it Reid Blankenship out there in Philadelphia getting snubbed by Nick Saban out of high school, getting a handshake and not much conversation, and his tibia sticking out of his leg, and he's making the team as the 89th highest paid player on the squad? Is it that guy? Or is it a Quez Watkins, a backup wide receiver who we sat down today at length for a story later this week? He's got a really interesting backstory, and he's going to get singled up. He's going to have opportunities. It's going to be a lot of attention on A.J. Brown, a lot of attention on Devontae Smith. That running game, he could be that player that, gets a linebacker at some point, gets a nickel, a dime, and takes advantage. You start. Who's that guy for you? Either way, that could have a big game that we're not talking nearly enough about in Phoenix.
I love this player. We've talked about him a little bit. Jerick McKinnon. I just feel like he'll find a way to make a first down, get in the end zone, turn a small play into something big. He's just always done that. He did it in college. He's a big game player. I love that guy.
Yeah. He's a stud. It's incredible he overcame too. I mean, he had a catastrophic knee injury. I mean, I feel like it was yesterday. Maybe it was a couple of years ago at this point. But I remember when that happened, I'm like, he's done. These running backs at that point of their career,
he was done. Yeah.
Here he is in the Super Bowl.
Once again, these guys.
I like that.
Yeah. So.
What about Kadarius Toney? That'd be my guy on the Chiefs.
I'm going to tell you something about him. He's either going to help me cash this ticket. He might be the reason he do something.
Oh, Jim, we're losing you now. He has
a wild side to him that I'm real.
Wild side. We heard wild side. We heard the most important part of that take.
I just said he has a wild side as far as fumbles, where I just can't count on him to do anything. Wild card for me.
I like him on those jet sweeps because they actually use him. So many of these guys who are motioning in that jet sweep action, they just don't get the ball. They're just trying to get a linebacker stepping the wrong way and give the ball to somebody else. He actually gets it, right? They might be doing a little funky ring around the rosy before they get to the line of scrimmage, but they use him, and he gets 0 to 60 as fast as anybody. So I could see him being a factor if he's healthy, right? His health has been an issue. But Jim, let's we're having all these internet issues. We might have to shut this baby down. Let's watch the tape, trust our technique, and see what we can do next time.